So, hello everyone. My name is Fawn Walker Montgomery, and I'm the CEO and co founder for Take Action Advocacy Group, formerly known as Take Action Mon Valley, and we call ourselves TAG for short. And this is our Voices of Liberation podcast for the new people who will be tuning in. And TAG is a Black liberation organization, and our purpose is to focus on small communities where Black people live in order to teach them how to advocate for themselves and be directly involved in decision making that affects their lives. We work with people who suffer social injustices, and the way we take action, we have a complaint program where people can call in and get help. Anything system related and racism related. We get a lot of calls about police violence, about school violence, about neighborhood racism, and we kind of walk people through the system. We always like to say the police have the system and that people have us. So we answer questions, we go to court with them. Anything that kind of comes up, a lot of times you don't hear about those. We don't post those. We just help people. Sometimes they turn into advocacy campaigns, and then you'll see us do calls to action, put out blogs for those. Sometimes that occurs as well. And we also do trainings in the community for individuals, for groups on Black liberation, on community organizing. We also have chapters. So we have an adult chapter and a youth chapter as well. And then we support all of the social justice initiatives, but our focus would be environmental justice, police violence, and all the intersections with environmental justice, such as food justice, health equity as well, and housing injustice. So we do a lot, and we be a lot of places. We are some boots on the ground community organizers. So we met, primarily do our work in the greater Pittsburgh area we affectionately call the Mon Valley because it is along the Monongahela River in Allegheny County, which is the Mon Valley is about, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes outside the city of Pittsburgh. Depending on who you ask, some folks think it's so far, but I promise you it is not. It's about 20, 25 minutes. So that's a little bit about our organization for the new people who are tuning in. We have been doing this podcast for about 2.5 years now, and it started because we wanted to get the stories out about the families we were working with within our social justice complaint program. We call it advocacy social work sometimes, abolition social work, because we really focus on pushing people to advocate for themselves outside of the system. That's a little bit about us. And today's podcast is going to be titled Community Will Sustain Us. There has been a lot going on with 47, even before 47, in regards to our communities. And we understand the value of community and that at the end of the day, we're the only ones that can save us and sustain us. So we wanted to have this podcast today to talk about what's going on with SNAP benefits, but also talk about the community resources and the power of community. And we have some amazing guests. We have Rochelle Jackson with the Black Women's Policy Agenda, and then we have Kelly Doyle with Agape, the Agape Center. So I'm going to bring our guest on now. Hello, you all. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast today. So I
Hello.
am going to,
Hi.
have you all just introduce yourself and talk about your organization, what you do, and how folks can sign up, and then we'll just have an open conversation. And then we'll start with you, Rochelle, because I'm looking right at you on my right.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me as a guest.
Mhm.
Happy to be here and have this important conversation. But I'm Rochelle Jackson, and I am the founding CEO for the Black Women's Policy Center, physically located in McKeesport. We do prioritize Mon Valley communities, but we serve and represent and sort of advocate on behalf of everyone throughout the greater Pittsburgh region. And I mean, our core focus is centered around policy, mostly because we know, particularly for Black women, we think about Black women are disproportionately impacted by any social, justice issue. And when you look at the statistics, we're usually at the bottom of the poll, and they're least likely to be at the table and part of the conversation when we're talking about solutions. But also at the same time, we're the backbones of our community, the backbones of democracy. And so it is time for us to get a return on those investments. We should not be just surviving. We need to thrive. And it doesn't take much, right? Policy should be geared towards helping everyone thrive. Because when we do well, and Black women are surviving or thriving, then everyone does, whole community prospers. And so it's really about empowering Black women, many of whom have lost their voices, have been disempowered throughout life. Starts as a young girl, trauma, society, racism, which I know you talk a lot about,
Hmm.
Fawn, institutional systemic racism. So our voices have been stripped away from us, and therefore we've been put into a situation where we don't have the power that we need to be a part of creating the solutions that we need to change our lives. And so it's really empowering Black women, giving them the power back, and really helping them to understand that their experiences, their stories, and their power, is a part of the overall solution. So really helping them, giving them tangible ways to do that. We do some training, we do some opportunities to speak to legislators. We do, trips to Harrisburg, to DC, really activating, the power that we're trying to help them sort of find within themselves. We also do life skills training, and, we do Black Women Supported, where Black women can come together and support one another and share resources and sort of create a healing circle. We do training with young girls now. And we're Civics Reimagined and Leadership Academy with girls from 13 to 18. So we do a wide variety of things. And of course, resources, absolutely connecting folks to resources with regards to food, shelter, clothing, jobs, you name it. We do a lot of partnering with folks in a lot of different ways. And then, of course, we do policy advocacy, creating a priority policy advocacy campaign every year and really focusing on what kind of policies will really change the lives of Black women throughout our region and actually throughout the state. So I'll leave it there because I can go on and on and on. But
Thank you for that. And we've had the pleasure to work with Rochelle on a few different things. I know that I've spoken at your boot camp.
mm-hmm.
And you just support a lot of events we do in the community, and we did the work with Penn State together.
Yes,
So
and we
we've
do some
been,
voting stuff. Voting, we do a lot of civic
yes.
engagement, civic
Mhm.
education, GOTV stuff as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So I've had the pleasure to work with your organization and you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
Kelly, we've worked with Kelly with COVID. That was a interesting time, I would
Yeah.
say,
Mhm.
when COVID hit. And I think me and Kelly did like weekly calls with so many different people. We were doing food deliveries, giving out food in the alley. We're doing everything that we could possibly do to feed people
Mhm.
during that time. And I remember being in so many meetings with Kelly and talking to so many people and just trying to give people, food and resources at that time. So that was our, introduction to working with Kelly, and amazing work that they're doing at the Agape Center. So thank you for being here, Kelly. Please introduce yourself to the
Hey,
folks and let them know what you do.
thank you. I'm honored to be here. My name is Kelly Doyle. My husband and I founded the Agape Center. Um, our physical location is right at the top of Penn State, Greater Allegheny. It's White Oak, but if you walk 3 steps, you're in McKeesport. Um, we serve uh, the entire McKeesport School District. We also work in Versailles out of the Croatian Club, and last Monday we opened in Glassport because they not only do not have a grocery store, but they did not have a food pantry.
Mm.
Um, we work on a scheduled basis on Fridays, but then also an emergency delivery basis throughout the week. If somebody uh, needs food, I suggest that they would go to mission-agape.org and they can connect and sign up with us that way. Everyone is welcome at Agape.
Mhm.
Um, we also have a clothing closet and a pet food pantry. If somebody is having problems with food insecurity, they're probably also experiencing that with their dog or cat. So we like to help them get those resources as well. In addition to that, I'm very excited that we are working in conjunction with Penn State Launchbox, and we are doing a launch Southwestern PA. It is our goal to get as many of our neighbors who come to see us and who want to
Mhm.
operating in their own small business, because so many people are very creative and they have a lot inside of them, and they have just are usually the hardest working person at their company, but they've been devalued and stuck making a lower wage. So we want everyone to rise, and uh, we're excited about that.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you all. And do you all do any delivery services, Kelly?
We do, yes. Right now, it's primarily within the McKeesport School District because
Mhm.
that's where we can get the most volunteers. We're working on an app that would bring in volunteers from more communities, and then we can begin delivering on a larger scale.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. And y'all been around for how long now?
Um, Formally in 2019, so 6 years. Um, but I did it for 4 or 5
Yeah.
before I realized that I needed to be a nonprofit formally.
Yeah. So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were a community group for about 6 years before we became a nonprofit. Yeah. Yeah. Because we just had our heads down doing the work.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Which
thank
is
you all.
important.
Yeah. 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 So thank you all for all the work you do. So my first question is just to get an update on what is going on with the SNAP benefits and what you all know about that. What is happening with that? Um, when are people going to get them? And because I feel like it changes every hour, literally. And I feel like that's how this whole administration has been going. 47 will do something, and then it goes in court, and people are undoing it, and then it goes to this court, it goes to that court. I feel like that's been this whole entire administration since January. That's how things are going. So I know it changes by the hour. So yeah, what do you all know about what's going on? Any updates on Snap and when people may be getting? Anyone can jump in. Anyone can start.
Um, Go ahead, Kelly.
So at the time of this recording, some
Hmm.
benefits have been paid, and then there was a Supreme Court pausing. So we're uncertain. And I spoke with a local state representative. They're
Hmm.
uncertain what that means
Hmm.
for the rest of the month and going forward.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if the first, I think, court order that mandated, of course, he was not 47, as you call him. I'd rather call him that than, but he was not willing to use the funds that were in the discretionary pot to pay the SNAP benefits. And then a court required him to do so, to at least use what was in there, which would have only paid half, sort of a portion of the benefits that people were entitled to. But he was even trying to find a way to delay, doing that, it was going to take weeks. And, that was really just for me, from my perspective, was just his way of finding a way to not do it. Delaying it was finding a way to fight it in court. He was
Hmm.
trying to make time to appeal it and fight it in court so that he didn't have to do it. But in the meantime, the courts came back and said, you know what? Rather than, use what's in there to pay half, we're ordering you to pay the full amount that people are entitled to.
Hmm.
um, and that was issued, and some of that money did flow from the federal government as of yesterday. And
It hit 6 states, right? Just
yeah,
6 states. Okay.
well, some of the states that sued, right? So Pennsylvania happens to be one of the states that were part of that lawsuit. So
Okay.
that money did start flowing, and I don't know if people saw Governor Shapiro did do a press conference yesterday announcing that the money had started to flow, although it was just flowing. So some people didn't get their benefits right away. Some people may have not gotten them by Friday because they were the vendor that they used was posting the benefits, as the money was coming in. So it was kind of flowing. It wasn't kind of like a systematic, everybody
Hmm.
gets it by noon kind of thing. So people who may have not seen their benefits as of the taping of this podcast may very well see them by Monday morning, depending on how the
Hmm.
vendor system works and when they post to their account. But as of Friday, that was enough money to pay for the sort of numbers 1 through 4 or 5. So 0 through 5. So the way that the SNAP benefits are paid is, it's a number system. And so if you're number 2, you have a payment date. So I think that it was enough to pay through 5, I think, which was Friday was the 5 pay date. So we're unsure about what's going to happen next week, if the rest of the money is going to flow through, because as of course he went right back to court and filed another appeal. So now it's up in the air again as to, when he files the appeal, that means the money stops flowing. So that's what
Hmm.
happened. Once he filed that appeal, that money stopped flowing. So now we're waiting to see if the money is going to open back up, if the appeal is actually, if he's successful or not, hopefully not. And so, but maybe early next week, we'll have some, we'll have some news about the rest of the
Mhm.
money flowing through and folks getting their benefits. So praying that that is how this goes,
Mhm.
that there isn't a delay, that this money does flow through because, yeah, everybody's been scrambling, trying to figure out how we're going to, meet the needs of folks. And we know, sort of three of us here know that SNAP benefits, contrary to what a lot of folks have been saying, social media, SNAP benefits do not meet the full need of
Mhm.
people who are food insecure. It is a assistance. That's why it's called it's an assistance program. It does not provide. So it really just is. It supplements the food budget. So
Mhm.
contrary to what people believe, losing that is making already vulnerable, and food insecure households even more vulnerable. And for some people, even though it is not a lot of money, it is the only money they have for food.
Mhm.
Disabled, senior citizens. Um, so yeah, this is critical time for folks. And it's
Mhm.
holidays, it's getting cold. It's just, yeah, the timing is just, there's never a good time, for folks to be hungry. Um,
Mhm.
but the holidays exacerbates that for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. And I just want to make space for the fact that we are talking about an administration that will go to the Supreme Court.
To make people hungry, to
Right.
to not feed
Yes.
kids
Not
and
feed.
senior
Yes.
citizens and people who are disabled. Like like let that set in.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to fight, to the end to make sure these people stay hungry. Let that set in.
Yeah. I just wanted to make space for that because it's wild as hell to sit here and have that conversation that you would go that length.
Should have been no
It's,
brainer. We got the money, release it. Like you're holding these
right.
people hostage, because you want to play political games.
Yes. Yes. It's
Unfathomable.
ridiculous. It is. And I wanted to say that because it's like to even be having such a conversation, like to go to the Supreme Court level, to get the Supreme Court involved, and now they have to
And not
block
once,
it
not just once. We're
like
talking once, twice,
twice,
times a
three
lady. This
times.
man keeps on trying to keep from paying
That's the
these
lady.
benefits. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he is determined to make these people suffer. And
Hmm.
there's nothing, I do not, there's no way. I mean, this man is capable of a lot of things, but I didn't even see that. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
did not think that it would stoop this low. You know what I mean? That
Hmm.
you really are trying to make children and seniors and people who are sick suffer. Like I just, yeah.
The
Yeah.
veterans that he claimed to care about,
Mm.
the people who are even serving right now overseas,
Hmm.
in Germany, they're actually fed by the country of Germany because there's not the food is not available to them there.
Mm.
Everything is
Right.
he's cut off everyone who he's
Yeah.
claimed to help.
Wow.
And to that point, just also want to make sure that people know that the military, many of whom found, because our country does not take care, the people that protect us, that protect our freedoms and our rights and keep
Hmm.
us safe from other countries, are paid very little from
Yeah.
this country in the first place. And many of those families receive SNAP benefits. So not only are they not getting paid because of the shutdown, they also are not getting their SNAP benefits. These are the people that he uses, that he claims, you know what I mean, that are, we have the greatest military in the world, but this is how we treat them. We don't pay them
Hmm.
well. They're paid, that they're paid so little that they would qualify for SNAP benefits, and now they're not even getting the SNAP benefits. But
Hmm.
they're supposed to show up every day and continue to protect, this country and or literally put their life on the line for a country that won't even make sure that their families are fed.
Hmm. It's ridiculous. The fact that we're even here, the air traffic controllers aren't being paid. I mean, it's just fascism and a dictatorship trying to occur like right in front of our faces. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's so important for us to continue to have conversations like this and resist. Another conversation that's been coming up out of this that's really been pissing me off is this misconception of people who are on SNAP benefits
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
and who actually is on it, who actually uses it, and who needs it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that because I know that's who we all work with, and
Mhm.
there's all these just misconceptions about who deserves it, who should get it, who's on SNAP. So SNAP benefits for everyone, and everyone is on SNAP.
That part. That
It's just not Black women. Black women are not the face of SNAP benefits. I
mm-mm.
believe it is
Absolutely.
um, white people who are on it more. I
I
believe.
Yes.
But there's this misconception that it's just, oh, it's black women with baby daddies on Snap,
Mm-mm.
and that's
No.
just that shit ain't true. It's not true at all. It's not benefits are helpful; they're
Yep.
useful. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about that because I know that's what y'all do on a daily basis.
I can tell you that the people who come to our food pantry are working families where one or two parents who are black or brown or white are
Hmm.
together and working.
Yep.
I can also say that there's many senior citizens.
Mhm.
Um, there is a big narrative that this is to defund illegals, which no person is illegal. Um,
Especially on stolen land. Yes.
but that very few Spanish speaking people. There used to be many. I
Mhm.
would say 6 months ago, we probably served 1,000 or 100 households,
Mhm.
and it was anywhere between 8 to 900 people because the Spanish speaking families typically we were seeing in multi generational
Mhm.
households. Um, Not so much. There, uh, 35 it came yesterday, and
Mhm.
that was a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
But they were not able to get SNAP benefits. This whole thing is a lie. I did expect when he took office for there to be a war on the poor. I did
Mhm.
not expect to see a gutting of the middle class.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Yeah, it's absolutely there is no middle class anymore. Like I mean, and actually, I won't even put that on him because I think we've been seeing the erasing or sort of the merging of classes for quite some time now. But he definitely put he put the icing on the cake, you know what I mean? And so but when it comes to SNAP benefits, I think that has been the most, and I'm not surprised, right? We've
Mhm.
always had this myth of the welfare queen, and trust me, it's always been a myth. In
Mhm.
the history of welfare, since we created a social welfare program in this country, it has
Mhm.
never been majority black women. We don't have enough of the majority of this country to have the majority of folks using welfare benefits. We've never had them, you know what I mean? So that's always been
Mhm.
a myth. You take one situation where one person, he finds a way to defraud a system, and now she becomes the poster child of welfare, which means that now they paint everybody with the same brush, right? So all black women,
Mhm.
are this what not, we don't talk about, the felon that we have in the White House. Nobody's painting,
Hello.
a brush. You know what I mean? Considering that, we have somebody in the White House with 34 felonies, but we're not, he's an individual, that's one person. We have the decency to isolate him, and not, say that everybody,
Mhm.
even everybody who's who supports him is a criminal, you know what I mean? But unfortunately we don't get that same, we don't get that same latitude. So but it has never been the majority of black women who are using welfare benefits. As you mentioned early when you started this, the
Mhm.
majority of folks who are using SNAP benefits are white.
Mhm.
And that by about 35% of the people who use SNAP benefits are white. And then you break it down, maybe about 28% are African American, and then you go on down into the, Hispanics, Asian Americans. And so but that's always been the case. That's not a new trend. It's always been that way. And even when you think about the fact that most people think that people on SNAP don't
Mhm.
work, right? That they're just sitting around collecting food stamps and eating bonbons and watching soap operas, right? That's never been the case. And it's certainly not the case now. 55% of the people who are on SNAP work. Some of them work more than one job and still can't make ends meet and still need support with providing food for their families. And so that is a big myth, So, and the rest of the makeup of SNAP are about 20% of those folks are disabled, 18% senior citizens, and then the rest are children. You know what I mean? So there's a very, very, very small population of people who may be between jobs, right? And maybe collecting SNAP benefits temporarily, particularly in the, economy that we're living in now, right? So that should not be a surprise to people that you have some folks who are, in between jobs and needing SNAP benefits to at least put some food on the table while they're doing that. But the majority of people who are on SNAP are working families. And then those that can't work, like your seniors and your disabled people and children under the age of 18. So we need, it's just shocking to me that in 2025, with technology at your fingertips
Mhm.
on your phone. You don't even have to type it. You can literally speak into your phone and ask the phone a question, ask Google a question that people, will really run with misinformation and non-factual information instead of checking it for themselves because people want to, it's sad to say, some people want to believe the worst about Black people, about people who use public benefits, poor people,
Mhm.
and they're people that they want the best in life just like anybody else, you know what I mean? And sometimes that just people fall on bad times, life happens, sometimes circumstances out of their control, systemic institutional barriers, which is one of the reasons why we do the work that we do to break some of that down. There are lots of reasons why people need things like SNAP benefits and public benefits, and it's not because somebody just wants to be poor. I can tell you, I've been there, done that. I raised 4 children as a single
Mhm.
mom, and it's not easy. You know what I mean? And I worked hard to get to where I am today because I wanted better for me, and I wanted better for my children. And that's the same for anybody who's struggling every day. They want more. They want better. So the idea that people just don't want to work and want to sit around and collect, these benefits, is false. And a lot of them have paid into those benefits. When they were working, people have paid taxes. They've paid into the system, just like you pay into Social Security. They pay. So that's why it's called a safety net program. It should be there to catch people when they fall on hard times because
Mhm.
these are working or have worked or who want to work. Right. And so we have to change the way that we see public benefits. Should not just be people not consider it as welfare, just handing out benefits to lazy folks. Are there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely. There's exceptions to
Mhm.
every rule, but that's just what it is, an exception. You don't paint everybody with the same brush.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all for that because this the stereotypes and the misconceptions about who's on Snap and who receives it are very dangerous. I myself have been on Snap a few times throughout my life.
Mhm.
Circumstances happen. Remember when I first got pregnant, I was a single mom, so I had to, had to get on Snap, and I remember walking into, the welfare office, and at that point, I had a bachelor's degree, and people were like, "Why are you here?
Mhm.
Why are you here for?" I was like, "Cause I need help."
Mhm.
I'm
I had that
pregnant.
same situation.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
had that same experience.
I
Yeah.
was in a domestic violence, relationship and needed to put my life back together again. Same as you, had a
Mhm.
degree, had a good job, but in that
Mhm.
whole situation, a lot was lost and I needed to really put my life back together. And the caseworker was looking at me like, why are you here? Because I need
Yep.
support. I need help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I was
Yep.
a single mom for 10 years, 3 sons. They wouldn't have eaten if
Mhm.
if I didn't have that support, or I would have had my car repoed. It was it's a necessary safety net.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. And I want to talk a little bit about the area that we kind of do our work in. There's a food apartheid that exists in our area. We actually work with Rochelle on this project with Penn State, where we did a report on the food apartheid that exists in the Mon Valley. We focused on McKeesburg, Duquesne, and Clareton, but it's the whole Mon Valley. And when we say food apartheid, we don't have grocery stores up here, and then we don't have access to get to the grocery stores that we do have because we have transportation issues. So we have communities like Clareton that has never had a grocery store, which is wild as hell in
Yes.
2025 that they've never had a grocery store. Duquesne doesn't have a grocery store now. McKeesport, we got two and a half. I say half because one nobody should be shopping in.
Mhm.
That's why I call it half.
Mhm.
But we have communities with no grocery stores and no access. And then we have communities with, low economic status, so they can't even afford to get to certain places. So when we say we work in the food apartheid, that's what we mean. So can y'all
Mhm.
talk a little bit about some of that work and how that's been literally in a food apartheid? And then you have gardening because people say you have community gardens, and then we got lead in the soil. So there's all of these things that, and that's why we do the work at so many intersections because that's the intersection of transportation, food, environmental, because then you got soil, you got lead in the soil, and all other kind of things from the steel mill and the other industrial industries that are up here in this area. So y'all talked a little bit to me about some of the things you've seen working in this food apartheid and the power of community. Like how has community shown up in those situations?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit about, some of what came out of the work that we were doing together from with Penn State.
Hmm.
And, Pastor Yule, who's also my brother from Duquesne, was also part of that work. And we talked a lot about we started that work right on the heels of them losing the one grocery store that they had, which was the Save a Lot. And so we were trying to come together quickly to see what can we, figure out, for these folks. And unfortunately, it was a little more challenging than we anticipated, and so we weren't able to really find sort of a real solution to solving that problem for folks. One of the things that did erupt from that is a program that is ran out of the church in Duquesne, Divine Restoration Church, where vegetables are provided for senior citizens, free vegetables. So the church does that twice a month to try to meet that need, because sometimes even when there's not even a Family Dollar in Duquesne. For a little bit of time they did have a Family Dollar where they
Yeah.
could at least maybe get some milk, bread, some rice, some canned food, things like that. They don't even have that now. So making sure that at least seniors are able to get produce. But, there's food pantries throughout the city. Divine Restoration operates a food pantry as well. And one of the other things that was started was a community meal. So once a month, at the church, there's an actual hot, very good food. I eat there myself, trust me, and I go and I help cook. But it's one way. And it's not just for people in Duquesne, it's for anybody in the Mon Valley. Now, obviously transportation might be an issue for some folks, but if you can get to the church, it's a nice hot meal, for families to come and partake of. So they're just some of the things that are kind of just really band-aids, right? Because we know that
Hmm.
that's not really solving the problem, but it kind of is at least providing some relief to families who are struggling, with getting food, and even in McKeesport, you mentioned that we have 2.5 grocery stores. And I don't know, folks may not know, McKeesport's a pretty large area. And so even
Yeah.
transportation can be a barrier for folks getting to and from grocery stores, even just within McKeesport. You're walking with, I think about moms, who are on WIC, and they have those gallons of milk and juice and cans of formula. And how do you do that without, transportation, or on a bus, or if you got small children? I remember when I was a single mom and, had 4 children, and how difficult. I remember I used to pack that stroller up because I didn't have a car, and I lived in Duquesne at the time, but we had to walk to the store and get my WIC, and I'd load that bottom of that stroller down. But, I just think, it's very challenging. I lived within walking distance, at least to a store where I could do that.
Yeah.
Some moms don't even live within walking distance. So it is something that I think that from a policy perspective that we need to, one of the things that I've also started, the Black Women's Policy Center, is a community leadership council, and we started it out. Initially individually within the different communities,
Mhm.
Clarendon, Duquesne, McKeesport, but then we quickly, saw that there are a lot of issues that cross communities. They have the same issues, you know what I mean? So it just made more sense to bring them together as a larger community leadership council. But these are the things that we want to empower them to speak to, right? You need to use their voice, to use their experience, to use their power. We just, had an election, right? Your vote is your voice, right? So the
Yeah.
folks that you vote for, you need to hold those folks accountable for doing something, right? And right now, food is critical in these communities. And so we need to know, what are you doing? What is the leadership in these communities doing? And as the leadership, council, it's sad to say that it's usually women who are the ones who are stepping up and solving these problems, right, and giving voice to them. But that's the goal: is to support this community leadership council in whatever way we can, so that they can be, and we're supporting one another. So all of us can, support the folks in Clarendon, all of us can support the folks in
Yeah.
Duquesne, and all of us can support the folks in McKeesport. There's strength in numbers, but holding folks accountable. That's how change happens, right? That's what I'm seeing in community, where folks are feeling like we have to do something. No, we're not just going to sit here and allow this to happen, right? And we need more of that to happen, right? We need more people to realize that they do have the power. It is in their voice. It is in their vote. And once you vote for folks, we definitely need to hold them accountable and responsible for doing what is needed in the communities, for sure.
Hmm. Absolutely.
I think that all pantry leaders have to also go from being advocates to activists. I
Mm.
think as a people, we were a little bit just soft and in our feelings when the ability to purchase from farms was taken away. That was
Mhm.
the first sign that,
Mm.
oh, that's the access to fresh fruit and vegetables, all of that subsidy has gone away. What that did was make the prices, and pantries have to purchase food from the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. I think people think that all food from there is free. There are some items that are free, but you do have to purchase it. Um, I think that there needs to be greater organization around that. And I think all of the people who are in the Rust Belt need to start calling out that Mr. Hillbilly allegory, or whatever you want to call it, uh, that he was there and he was one of them. And those are the people, did not come from my house, I promise, but that got them elected in the end. And they're suffering now, alongside everybody else who already was. But there really needs to be a shift of pantry leaders becoming activists and not being so docile.
Mm.
I agree. Also, pantries, encouraging their participants to be, activated, right? You know what I mean? That,
Yes.
to use their voices. And those are simple things, you know what I mean? You making sure that folks that are coming to your food pantries are registered to vote, making sure that they, know who their representatives are, giving them, just easy ways to, send an email, you know what I mean? Tag your legislator on social media, you know what I mean? Just giving them tools, a toolkit, things that they can do that empowers them, but uses their voice and puts pressure on legislators. And I understand it. It's a lot to operate a food pantry. And, the main concern is making sure the folks get the food. But I think, like you said, a secondary concern should be activating folks, and getting them engaged, in the advocacy piece of this and how that works for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Kelly, can you just explain a little bit more about that? I think that's real interesting about the process of how y'all get the food from this, because I don't think people don't I think they do think it's free, and it's just, so can you explain that a little bit for folks?
So each week before a delivery, first of all, when a truck comes, it costs a pantry $75. That's before the food goes in it. That's just the delivery fee. If you pick up, it's free, but you have to go on and you have to order the food. Everyone has to be registered. And when they come through the pantry doors, they're accounted for. They're in a system that's called Link to Feed. All pantries use the same system, and that's how the food bank tracks it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Depending on the week, there's different food items available for purchase. It used to be, before this president took office, there's always 15 pages of food on the screen to choose items from. There used to be 3 or 4 pages free. As of last week, you could maybe get a can of garbanzo beans for free, and that was it.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
so a major shift happened. I also think it exposed that pantries need more foundation support. We do receive foundation support, but there's a lot of larger foundations in Pittsburgh who walked away from funding food. And I think that this crisis has maybe, uh, hopefully, getting some attention that needs to be funded better.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for the call out with the forums and missing that, and
Yes.
being
Mhm.
passive
I just
about
think
that.
a lot of people missed that whole, and also, I'm sure Kelly is aware of this too.
Mhm.
Along with that, came a significant cut in funding
Mm.
to the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Banks and
Yes.
food banks all across the country. So, that, limits their ability to be able to meet the need as well, and charity is great. I'm seeing it all on TV, and people are starting, the guy from Pittsburgh who was just featured on national
Oh, yeah.
TV about him and his sons. And that's amazing. Wonderful. Praise God for that. But that can only go so far, right? At some point, you know what I mean? That's going to take away from his family and other people who are donating now. It's a wonderful thing, but how long is that going to last, right? Because everybody else has their own needs that they have to meet, right? So you can maybe give one time, you maybe give 2 times, 3 times, but at some point, which is why we have government, right? Which is why we pay into a government that is supposed to provide these, provide these necessities, these, take care of things like feeding the vulnerable, you know what I mean? And the food insecure folks, and, folks who need help with jobs, and, you know what I mean? Folks who are disabled and don't have health insurance. That's the role of our government, which is why we pay our taxes. So it should not fall just on the shoulders of folks who are doing it out of the kindness of their heart. And I'm not negating that in any kind of way at all. We need that, you know what I mean? Because clearly government can't do it all either. Right. We need both. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I just want people to know that the food banks have now lost millions and millions and millions of dollars as a result of this administration. So this was long before SNAP was cut, long before the government was shut down. This was something that was happening in the background that folks probably didn't even realize was happening, because the food banks didn't make a big deal out of it. They just, regrouped and figured, we're going to do the best what we can do
Yeah.
with what we have, with just what they know how to do. But that is going on as well, that they're getting less, government support. That funding has been cut, like the subsidies, farm subsidies, as well as funding. So it's been a hit. The food banks were already, experiencing a lot of challenges, with being able to provide. Like Kelly said, it went from 15 pages to one page with just garbanzo beans on it. You know what I mean? So imagine how the food banks are feeling, you know what I mean, that they're not getting that in and able to provide that, to pantries. And I know we run a pantry out of our church, so I know that you do have to pay for a lot of that, so that is reliant upon,
Yeah.
or you to get the funding either, from your church or congregation, or, if you're getting, um, some grants and whatnot. And it's sad to say that foundations have pulled away from, food, because we're going to always need support. Folks are going to always need help with food. So that should be a constant to anybody who's running a foundation and, providing grants.
I don't think philanthropy can fully save us, though. I think that
No.
it's really time for people who have just been like the helpers in the Mr. Rogers kind of way across the city, just to
Mhm.
like, okay, come on, uh,
Yeah. No.
do
Activate,
more.
activate, yeah, activate,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Philanthropy is, yeah. So it's we can't, yeah, that's not it's policy. That's why I do this work. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
it's policy,
Yeah.
it's creating policy that is meant to solve real problems. You know what I mean? When I teach policy to people, lay people, or even kids, public policy is nothing but a problem and a solution. If the problem is hunger, then what is the solution? Not the band-aid, the solution. Let's get to the core of why folks are hungry, right? Instead
Mhm.
of putting these band-aid approaches to it. And we can do it. We've got more than enough money in this country. We just need the will, right? And we need the
Mhm.
morals and the values to want to do it, right? And if the folks that are in these offices leading us aren't those folks, use that vote to get those folks out and get other ones in. Period.
Mhm. Mhm.
it's definitely been a heart posture and a whole exposure of it,
Yeah.
even within the Christian community,
Hmm.
uh, who they're backing. It's
Mm-hmm.
speaking volumes. Uh,
Yeah. People are showing who they are.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. People are showing who they are. I love what you all both brought up about the importance of collective advocacy, and the
Mm-hmm.
importance of activating, and the importance of activism, and speaking out, because the writing was on the wall and most of us seen it, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
some folks chose to remain like passive or quiet about it. But that's not gonna help us. Like you said, Kelly, we're really big. We're abolitionists, so we're really big on mutual aid. Really big on doing things without the system involved at all. Because when you depend on it so much, they just take it. They
Yeah.
take it away. And we all know the system isn't designed for most people. It's a
No.
horrible system. So we have to really lean more on community, more on mutual aid. I know there's a couple groups doing mutual aid things. People do food chains, people take care of their neighbors, and that's not really connected to any real system. So mutual aid is something that is strictly done by community members. It's not funded by any particular source. It is just community members getting together and doing things. And there were some mutual aid connections that were established here during COVID that
Mm-hmm.
remained, and that are still going. So I definitely
Mm-hmm.
encourage people to do more mutual aid with your neighbors, with the people in your direct community. Do advocacy as well. Do all the things. Like we can't just do one thing. We need to be doing all the things collectively. And I also want to add, because we're talking a lot about the Mon Valley, it is not just McKeesport, Duquesne, and Clare. There are other communities in the Mon Valley. There's
Absolutely.
Braddock, Swissvale, Munhall, Homestead. I mean, there's a lot of communities for
Gosford.
this particular. Yeah, there's a lot of communities in the
Yes.
Mon Valley,
Yes.
and I wanted to make sure I made space for that and talked about them as well, because we're all going through the same thing, and there's a lot of Mon Valleys across the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Going through some of these same
That's
issues
same.
that,
Yes, but
yeah,
yes.
that we all go through. So, just to like add some closing words, what would you all say to people who are, at home feeling frustrated, feeling like they want and need to do something? What would you say to people that they should be doing now in this moment? What should we be called to be doing? Like, what would your closing words be to folks?
I would just say, like you mentioned, mutual aid is really important right now. There are a lot of efforts happening within our communities on social media where people are either raising money to help support
Mhm.
families that are, experiencing, the loss of SNAP benefits. There are, community programs that are having different drives and different things like that. So I would say those are some real concrete ways to actually do
Mhm.
something, but I want people to think beyond just that, one time or two times sort of support thing, because this is, food insecurity has always been around and it will continue to be around even when the SNAP benefits are restored.
Yes.
And we're not even a year into this administration. And so if all of this has happened, within, 10 months, imagine what we may have to endure for the next 3 years. So I would just, really encourage folks to find a way, to get engaged and get involved, in, some efforts that are happening within their community, within the county, within the state, that are really holding our elected officials, accountable and really building our collective power, because that's what it's going to take for us to come together. We need to support one another with mutual aid to make sure that folks are getting what they need, that they
Yes.
aren't suffering. But we also need to come up together and be a part of change, right? And making sure that change is happening, that we are evolving out of this and not getting stuck in it. And so there are lots of ways folks can do that. You know what I mean? Black Women's Policy Center does a lot of things, trainings. Just we have a midterm election coming up, which is going to be a really
Yes.
important election. So
Mhm.
folks need to find out how you can get involved in that, whether it's getting folks registered, whether it's getting folks to the polls. Black Women's Policy Center does Rise to the Polls. We're a small organization, but it's a small role that we can play. And even if we get one person to the poll, that's one extra vote that would not have been there had we had not been able to take that person to the polls. And so even that makes a huge difference, just riding people to the polls, helping people understand the importance of why they should vote, even more now than before. So there are lots of things that, people, can do, and just stay engaged, stay involved, find some organizations, some folks that are doing this work, and get engaged, follow what they're doing. Anytime there's an opportunity for you to be a part of what they got going on, go to your city council meetings, go to your
Mhm.
county council meetings, let your mayor of the city where you live know what's
Yeah.
happening in your community, reach out to the governor, your state reps, federal reps. We've got to speak out. And don't think that your voice doesn't count. You know what I mean? Just because you might be one of 200,000, that one makes a difference. And trust me when I tell you, they know, they hear, they are seeing your emails, they are getting the messages you're leaving
Mhm.
with their staff, they are seeing what you're posting on social media. It makes a huge difference. Even just look at what happened on social media with the guy and the racial slur in Swissvale.
Yeah.
That happened because people posted that video and they were outraged
Mhm.
and they put pressure on the elected officials in that community, and that was addressed. So you have power. People have power. They just need to use it. So find a way to get activated.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
agree with everything she said. I don't think I could add anything meaningful to that. But what I do want to do is, before we leave, dispel a myth. You may register for more than one food pantry. It is illegal if a pantry tells you, "Oh, do you go somewhere else? You cannot come here."
Oh, wow. I didn't
And
know
if
that you did that.
yes, and if
Mhm.
anyone that is local to Mission Agape, if you can get there, you can receive food from us. If
Wow.
you're in a pantry in your local, community and you need extra.
I
So
love
you're,
that you guys provide transportation. That's
yeah.
that's that's a blessing. And not many pantries do that. So that is truly a blessing.
Hmm. Hmm. So you are able to go to the register with more than one food pantry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And if they tell you you're not, you need to report them to the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
literally could go to a different one each week if you need to, and you're allowed
Yes,
to do that. Okay.
yes. You can
Wow.
also go to the market in Duquesne twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know. I'm sure people did not realize that. A lot of people, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that. You know what I mean? That people, I never really thought about whether you could go to different ones, but I didn't realize that some pantries were really discouraging people and literally telling them that they can't do that. So that is
Mm-hmm.
really good information for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to just mention, I know that it's going to be overwhelmed with a lot of folks because, due to the SNAP issue, but the Urban League is doing their annual turkey Thanksgiving dinner giveaway on November 22nd. So folks, should be aware of that as well. Black Women's Policy Center is working with some other folks to try to provide rides for folks to get downtown. It's at the convention center downtown every year. So we want to make sure that transportation isn't a barrier for people that need to get down there. But that is at least, a little bit of hope, in case this SNAP thing doesn't go well. At least that, I know they can't
Mm-hmm.
serve everyone, but so it is a first come, first serve. So if folks are planning on going, probably need to get there early and make a plan in advance. But that they want to mention that is, something that's available for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you point out the political piece. When we did that report on the food apartheid, and this is to any politician watching this, the people pointed out to us that they know that when politicians are arguing, it stops us from getting resources in our community. So people recognize that. They know
Hmm.
that that's happening. That was something they kept every time we asked that. They said, "Well, I know that Fawn, if somebody don't like you and you represent this community, that I might not get food resources." They said
Hmm.
we recognize that, so people know, and then people have the power to shift that.
Yep.
We have so much power in our voice when we speak up, when we advocate, especially collectively. So I love that you all you brought that up, and that you brought up the food bank in the marketplace. I'll put all of these. We'll put all of these resources in the chat so people can make sure to grab them and come back to them. The food bank, the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, is in Duquesne, and they service the whole county. And they do have a marketplace for people to
Hmm.
come. They can come and shop there. If you can get there, you can come and you can shop there. And you can also go through their website and you put your zip code in, and then all of the food pantries in your area will come up. So that's a really good resource for people to know about. Urban League, we'll make sure we put that in.
Hmm.
Urban League, they'll give you food as well. You go down there, it'll give you
Yes,
emergency
they do
food.
have emergency food. They have emergency
Yes.
food. Yeah, and like I said, transportation. If that's a barrier for anyone, they can call Black Women's Policy Center. We will do everything we can in our power to make sure that folks can get to where they need to go to get the food that they need.
Okay. Are there any other resources y'all want to say before we kind of
Um,
close out for
I know
folks?
that our church is doing snap boxes. I'm not sure. We share. I know you shared it, Fawn, on your social media,
Yeah.
and we shared it out on social media for folks to sign up. So I don't know if, but it's Divine Restoration Church. They do have a Facebook. We have a Facebook page. So if folks, well, by the time they see this, I think it will. But this will be happening on next week, early part of next week. But beyond that, we may be doing some other, supports for folks as well. So, just I would say, just people should stay engaged on social media as best as possible to figure out, kind of where, food is 211. If folks aren't aware of 211, you can always call 211 and find out if there's something happening in your community or near you that you may not be aware of. Um, just in terms of resources and, making sure that you're not missing something.
The Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, on their website, they list each town,
Mhm.
where the pantry is, and when they distribute. So you can kind of be planful.
Mhm.
Um,
And that's updated in real time too.
yeah,
Yes.
So it's very current, and it's the information is accurate when you do go there. So I'm always sending
It's
folks the
probably more accurate than 211, to be
it
honest with
is.
you.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you
Yeah.
said that. Yeah, definitely is.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, I thank you all so much for coming on and joining us today. It was an amazing conversation, and thanks again for the work you do in the community.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for the work
Thank
that you
you.
do as well. Always happy
Thank you.
to partner and work together. It was very nice meeting you, Kelly, and I'll be reaching
Yes,
out.
you. Thank you.
Well, this is the part of the podcast, like I said, I call talking shit. And what we do is give an update on what Tag is doing, and our advocacy cases, and then talk about current events. So, as far as tag goes, we will be doing a harvest festival in Crawford Village in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, on Saturday. We work with the Crawford Village Tenant Council. We're working with them closely for the past few years, and they're doing a harvest festival, and we are helping them. So that'll be at the Pavilion down in Crawford on November 15th from 2 to 4. So folks are welcome to welcome to come to that. And then in December 16th, we'll be doing Black Santa in Clareton. And they will also be doing a listening session for environmental justice as well. So please make sure that you follow us on social media, sign up for a newsletter to kind of stay updated. We have a very active advocacy case now with the McKeesport Police, just to kind of catch everybody up. We've been fighting McKeesport Police for years since our existence. And this year they beat up a 70-year-old Black man to the point where they fractured his ribs. So we put out some demands with that. And one of those demands is to have a police review board, to have mental health responders respond with the police, to make sure there's therapists there to help, de-escalate situations. We are also asking for them to defund the police budget and put that money back into the community, which makes so much sense now if we have everything going on. When you look at any community, their police budget is the biggest budget that they have. So we're asking them to cut that by 10% and put that money back into communities so we can have things like food banks and transportation for people to, get around the community. We're also asking for people to boycott events with the city of McKeesport. And why we ask for that is because we see how the city uses these events to try to portray like they care about what's going on in our communities. And if you look at it, you'll see some of the pictures that they post. And, white people do events in McKeesport too, but you don't really see a lot of that. You'll see a lot of the Black events. So they'll purposely come take pictures with you, put it in their magazine, and act like they're doing something with that. And they also use it as a divisive mechanism as well. If you disagree with them, they'll kind of take the resource away. So that's why we're asking people to boycott. So it's not like we're asking people to boycott because we don't like them. We're asking people to boycott because they've been not responsive in holding the police accountable when they are damn near killing people. And it is a problem. So we want to make sure that they do their jobs and that they hold these officers accountable. So that's where the demands are at. We still have the lawsuit that when in 2020, when an officer was shot, and thank goodness the officer survived, but they were on a manhunt for Kobe Francis and they terrorized McKeesport. So there's a lawsuit for that as well. So that campaign is up and running, and we will be heading to the December McKeesport City Council meeting, which is always the first Wednesday of the month. We'll put our blog in the chat for people to kind of follow what is going on with that particular campaign. And we're also doing a lot of work with environmental justice as well. And we talk a little about that throughout the podcast and how everything is connected. So the environment is connected with the food, it's connected with the transportation as well. And we do a lot of work with the environmental justice table through Upstream Pittsburgh. I'm the lead consultant on that, and TAG is a steering committee member. And we're working on a campaign now to get customer assistance programs and customer advisory boards within the water companies that service the Mon Valley. So they did that in the city of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Water did that, but they didn't just do it because they wanted to. They did it because they were pushed by the community. So the Our Water campaign, which is ran by Gabby with Pittsburgh United, and Upstream does a lot with that as well. So they pushed them to, make the water public, and they won that campaign, but to also have customer advisory boards and customer assistance programs. And they also did that with Wilkinsburg Penn Joint. So we want to do the same thing in the Mon Valley. And just like the county, everything is fractured and structured. We have so many different water companies, and we can't even drink the damn water. I have never been able to drink this water in McKeesport. I see you shaking your head. It's the same thing. Yeah, my mother told me never. She said never touch that water. So I've never drank the water. Never been able to drink the water. So we want to make sure that the people have a voice in that. So we're pushing pushing for that as well. And then another campaign with the Environmental Justice Table is to have a deconstruction policy in the city of Pittsburgh. There is a executive order that was put by Paduto when he was mayor, but then it didn't go anywhere. So we want to make that a policy. So those are some of the things that we're working on. And the last thing I want to update everybody on is Cop City. So if you don't know what Cop City is, Cop cities are popping up across America. And a cop city is a place where cops train. That's it says what it's a cop city, but it's just not your local police. Police come from across the world to train in cop cities, and they're trying to put one in Pittsburgh. We were involved in the one that they built in Atlanta. I guess that's the most well-known one, but there's at this point there's 39 plus cop cities across the world, across America. They're just popping up everywhere, and people, officers will come up here from other countries and train our officers on tactics on literally how to kill us better. And our officers here in Pittsburgh have already been to Israel to train with the army over there, and that's where they get those techniques to put their foot on their necks. That's where they get the rubber bullets from. So when in 2020, when we were protesting, they were trained by them to kill us better. We do not need a cop city in Pittsburgh. So they are trying to put a cop city at the old VA site in Lincoln, Leamington, which is in a black community. I don't understand why anybody would think it would be a good idea to put police in a black community, like right in the middle of the damn community. This is extremely dangerous. We are extremely against this. The city of Pittsburgh, the council pushed it through. It's real shady how it happened. So they've known about this since 2018. They acquired the property, the old VA, and they had it since 2018, and it was just in limbo, and nobody really did anything with it. I guess they were having conversations about it, and then 47, his administration said you have to do something with it, or we're going to take it back. So that's when they came up with a public safety training center. So they're saying it's a police, fire, and EMS. It's estimated to cost $84 million. And I'm gonna say that again because I need people to hear that. $84 million is estimated to cost to build a multi-million dollar police training facility in the city of Pittsburgh. We don't need that shit. No one asked for it. We don't need it. When 47 says y'all gotta do something with it, this is the idea they came up with. And for the past 4 months, TAG, along with our comrades, have shown up to the Pittsburgh City Council meetings demanding, like, we don't want this, we don't want this. And they stalled the vote, and they put some amendments in place that they claim would help. Um, there would be no training there, no stimulations, but we all know that 47 does what he wants when he wants. So those amendments are not going to protect anything. If this gets built, they're going to be doing trainings there. They're going to be doing simulations there. There's going to be a gun range there. There's going to be canine training there. There's going to be a pool, wellness and shit. I don't know what it has to do with anything, but that's what's going to be there. I know that some of the EMS workers and fire workers will want a living wage more than they would want an $84 million training facility. It makes no damn sense to spend that much money. And in addition, the company that they hired to do the plans, this company has been accused of surveilling people in the past. Community members have sued them for surveilling them in the past. And they, despite us bringing that up, they still hired this company. They gave them over $2 million to start the process. And there's been no public hearings. Now, in the city of Pittsburgh, because TAG does work throughout this county, we do also do work in other states as well. So we're everywhere. And there's always a community meeting in the city of Pittsburgh, a listening session or some shit like that. You want the community's opinion. That has never happened with this cop city. There's been no public hearings. What they have said is that after the master plan is done, I'm gonna say this twice. After the master plan is done, then they'll have a public hearing. So after we decide what we're gonna do, then we'll come tell you about. Basically, that's what they're saying. So, and it's not dawned or lost on us that the city of Pittsburgh, the council people, a majority of them were elected off of this platform of being progressive Democrats. That this shit ain't progressive, you all. There's nothing progressive about erasing the people's voice and not even asking people what their opinion is and just throwing this $84 million.
Where
police.
does the 84 million come from?
They say that's the estimated cost that they're
No,
gonna
I
have.
mean, is that federal money or is that city money?
They say it's gonna be a combination.
Uh,
They say it's gonna be a combination. They're gonna have to get it from all these kind of different places to make sure that it's done. 84 million, and we have a housing crisis in this county. We have unhoused people. We have people who were just advocating for stop the violence funds because they cut stop the violence funds. So make any of this make sense? Why in the hell would you push $84 million, but you don't even have housing for people? It just doesn't make sense. Nobody asked for this, and we do not need it. We are extremely fearful that if this is built in the middle of a black community, we're going to be target practice. There's going to be training simulations there, and they're going to say, "Oh, it's friendly fire." There's going to be officers and militaries coming in here from other countries, and I know that they say, "Oh, these amendments, will protect that." And nah, we are living in fascism right now, and we can't ignore that. Okay, no, go ahead.
does the city of Pittsburgh, is it a form of government where the mayor has control, or is it the council, or how does that work? Because I know in like boroughs, the council has control and
Hmm.
the mayor really is a figurehead. Uh,
Hmm. So the city of Pittsburgh council has, I would say, the council and the mayor have equal power within that, and they all work together. So it's not like McKeesport. So McKeesport is Humble Charter, and the mayor does have a majority of the power according to the charter. But in city of Pittsburgh, council does have a lot more power than the city of Pittsburgh. Those are like full time jobs. They have a staff. So council does have a lot of power in the city of Pittsburgh, and it was council who did push this through, but it was also the mayor. It was also the mayor. So everybody is in agreement with this, and we're asking people to apply pressure, to reach out to the mayor, to reach out to the city council, to reach out to the new incoming mayor as well, to put pressure on them to say, we don't want and we don't need this. We have too much going on now. We do not need a cop city, and no one's going to acknowledge that it's cop city. They're going to say, "Oh, no fun. It's a public safety training facility for police, fire, and EMS." I can see through all that bullshit. I know what this is. It is dangerous, and it is going to further harm Black communities and Black people specifically, but all people, because it's going to be a police training facility. So we don't need cops trained more on better how to kill us. And that is literally what they're going to do at this facility. And there are so many other things that 84 million, hell, that a million can go to. We have all these reports. I was at an event recently and they said there's been over 70 reports done in Allegheny County on the disparities. So we know what the hell is going on. I don't know why this would be an effective solution to help people. It is not helping anyone. We do not need, a police training facility. So we've been very vocal about our how we're against this, how we're against them building this, and we'll continue to do that. We're going to continue to resist. We hope people, will join us. I don't want people to just ignore this, and then it comes, and then shit blows up. We can't ignore that this is happening. A lot of people don't know about it, and it's happening right now. It's past. There was a meeting that was supposed to be, and we were going to show, because the way that city of Pittsburgh is ran, they have standing committees, and in those standing committees, they make a majority of decisions. They pass things through there, and then it goes to the regular meeting. So there's supposed to be a regular meeting. They changed it. It was supposed to be Monday. It was supposed to be Tuesday. They changed it on us, like at the last minute. Didn't tell anybody. They gave us a few hour notice, and then they passed it at that meeting, which I'm sure is a sunshine law violation. But that's how shady it was. There was a meeting scheduled for that Tuesday. They changed it to that Monday. and passed it through and didn't tell anyone. So of course we weren't there to object. So it got passed through. So now they said that it's been passed and they'll work on this master plan. And when a master plan is done, they'll come and tell us what their master plan is, and then we can get feedback. That's not community engagement. That is not being inclusive. That's basically doing what you want to do. And in a shady way, it was done with not telling people and then shifting the meeting. It's just disingenuous, and you shouldn't have to do that if this was something you actually believed in doing. You wouldn't have had to be so shady about it, for lack of better words. So those are some of the things and current events that we wanted to bring up, so people can know what is going on in your communities. We always discuss 47 because we don't want people to become we don't want fear mongering. We don't want people to be so fearful of what may come, that they become down and out. We have to understand, especially for people of color, we've been here before. We've been here before.
Mhm.
We'll get through this shit. We've been here before. Community will sustain us. We will get through this. And it's not going to, no one person is saving us. I want to be clear. No one organization is going to save us. We going to save us collectively, with community, with all of us working together. Um, yeah. So yeah, that's what I mean by talking shit, Kelly. It's just kind of going over
Going over what you're doing. Yeah.
yeah, the advocacy cases we're working on, what we have coming up, the current events. We talk a lot about that with SNAP, but we also constantly always talk about community, because there is so much fear. I think people sometimes just sit online all day and look and see, oh, what's 47, what's the administration doing, and you have to be able to log off.
Yes.
You know,
Healthcare. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You have to be able to, like, okay, let me log off of here. Let me just. You should be informed, yes, but you shouldn't let it overtake yourself. And stress will kill you. It'll get you sick, and you can't do everything either. Everybody can't do everything. You
Right.
have to rest and resist. And yes, it is possible to do both. Yes. You'll hear me say this probably every podcast. Now, when I say rest, I'm not saying, oh, go to sleep. I'm saying rest your mind. Take a minute, take a breather. You can't even strategize or think about your next move if you have not rested.
Right.
So you have to be able to rest and resist at the same time. I do it all the time. Literally. I'm like, okay, let me take a break. Let me chill out for a minute. Let me go ground myself. Let me go sit in grass.
Yes.
Take a walk. Breathe the fresh air. So we have to be able, yeah, we got to be able to do these things. So remember the power of community. Remember the power of your voice. Remember the power you have inside to affect and push for change. TAG has been a part of a lot of movements where we've been successful in pushing for change. Um, it's possible. Get into community. If you're not involved with a local organization, local group, find one. And if there's no one where you live at, make one yourself. Make one yourself. Don't wait for
Absolutely.
anybody to come and save you, because ain't nobody coming. We got to save ourselves. We have to use our voice. We have to speak up. We must, and we have to continue to resist. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it. I don't know. You have any questions or anything, Kelly?
No, I need to educate myself on that because I've been focusing on food and all of the things with this emergency.
Hmm. Yeah, it's there's so many things going on around us, and there's so many intersections of it.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's
We need a
always
bus
good.
stop at the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank too, because
Mm,
they have a market that's open every day and people can go there twice a month,
yeah,
and there's not a bus stop.
yeah, yes, yes. That transportation access, that's a big piece.
And PRT, every
Hmm.
time I reached out to them, and I know a state representative who did as well, it would not be convenient because of the way that their bus would have to turn around.
Yeah.
It was their response.
Hmm. I'm on the board for Pittsburgh Public Transit for PPT. So that's something that we've been working on for a while, is trying to get a bus stop over there.
Good, good.
And that would make so much sense, like you said, because there is that market there. And then it's along like railroad tracks.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. So that's something that I know the PPT has been pushing. And thank you for bringing light to that, especially if we're talking about food and access, because you have to be able to get to the market at the food banks. You got to cross train tracks. A lot of people in Elliott County don't have cars.
Right.
So you're walking past over a train track, and then you got to carry all that stuff up the hill wherever you're going to get. Even if you're taking a bus, you got to get to the bus stop, which is way further from where the market is at, actually. So that goes back to that access issue and being able to access the food, and that's what our politicians, our elected officials, should be doing, is making sure that the area is safe enough for people to walk in and out, and making sure that if they need to change the structure, change it. Put a bus stop there. I don't know why it's so damn hard.
No.
Like basic shit. Like just put it there. It needs to go there. People need to get there for food. So, put it there. So they're not going to do it unless we make them.
Yeah.
So that's where the power of using your voice. That's where the power of using your voice comes. So we have to stay resistant. We have to continue to unlearn white supremacy, and what I mean by that is the relationship with white supremacy. And you that's connected with rest. I had to do that. I had to unlearn. And white supremacy is not just KKK. No, it's the white supremacy is built into our systems. It's built in. It's ingrained into our way of life. So you have to unlearn that, so you can really understand true liberation. You have to unlearn and how you have ingested that, and all of us have. Black people, white people, everybody has digested white supremacy. So we have to unlearn that, so we can get to liberation. So we can get to collective liberation, and that doesn't happen until you sit your ass down and rest for a minute and unlearn some of these harmful things that you've learned, and then you can get to liberation. Liberation is going to come from community. It's going to come from us educating ourselves. It's going to come from us reading. I promise you, we're not going to protest or um, fund or buy our way to liberation. It doesn't work that way. It's a collective thing that comes from study. It's a collective thing that comes from learning. When you're liberated in your mind, nobody can tell you anything. And that's why I'm so strong in the convictions, because I'm liberated in my mind.
Mm.
You have to get there, and that comes from doing that internal work. So yeah, thank you so much, Kelly, for staying on
Thank
and
you.
in the conversation
Thank
with
you.
us. And anybody can watch our podcast. It'll be on our Facebook page, but all of our podcast episodes are on our YouTube page. So thank you all for joining us, and you all continue to rest and resist. Ashe.
Thank you.